Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravana Chade. Yamuna Tiravana Chade. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashto Tarashat Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashto Tarashat Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jaya. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Nugovardhan Dham Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we were reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, entitled The Creative Impetus, Chapter 10, Maharaj Rahugana meets Jad Bharat, and we're on text 12. Vishesha Budhir Vivaram Manak Cha Pashyama Yan Na Vyavya Nyat Ka Ishvaras Tatra Kim Ishitvam Tatapi Rajan Karavama kim te vishesha buddher vivaramanacha Pashyamayana vyavaharaton yat ka ishvaras tatra kim ishitva ishi what is it? Ishitavyam tatapi rajan karavama kim te Vishesha buddhir vivaramanacha Pashyamayana vyavaharaton yat Ka ishvaras tatra kim ishitvam Tatapi rajan karavama kim te Vishesha buddhir vivaramanacha Pashyamayana vyavaharaton yat Ka ishvaras tatra kim ishitvam Tatapi rajan karavama kim te Vishesha buddhe of the conception of the distinction between master and servant. Vivaram, the scope. Manak, a little. Cha, also. Pashyamaha, I see. Yat, which. Na, not. Vyavaharataha, then the temporary usage of convention. Anyat, other. Kaha, who. Ishvaraha, the master. Tatra, in this. Kim, who. Ishitvam, Ishitavyam, is to be controlled. tapi, nevertheless, Rajan, O king, if you still think that you are master and I am servant. Karavama, I may do. Kim, what? Te, for you. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, HG Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My dear king, if you still think that you are the king and that I am your servant, you should order me, and I should follow your order. I can then say that this differentiation is temporary, and it expands only from usage or convention. I do not see any other cause. In that case, who is the master and who is the servant? Everyone is being forced by the laws of material nature. Therefore, no one is master and no one is servant. Nonetheless, if you think that you are the master and that I am the servant, I shall accept this. Please order me. What can I do for you? Purport. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Aham Meti. One thinks, I am this body, and in this bodily relationship, he is my master, he is my servant, she is my wife, and he is my son. All these conceptions are temporary due to the inevitable change of body and the arrangement of material nature. We are gathered together like straws floating in the waves of an ocean, straws that are inevitably separated by the laws of the waves. In this material world, everyone is floating on the waves of the ocean of nescience, as described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Miche Mayara Vashe Yache Bise Kacha Habu Duba Bai Jiva Krishna Das E Vishvas Karleta Ara Dukanai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur states that all men and women are floating like straws on the waves of material nature. If they come to the understanding that they are the eternal servants of Krishna, they will put an end to this floating condition. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 337, Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajaguna Samudbhavaha. Due to the mode of passion, we desire many things. And according to our desire or anxiety, and according to the order of the Supreme Lord, material nature gives us a certain type of body. For some time we play as master or servant, as actors play on the stage under someone else's direction. While we are in the human form, we should put an end to this nonsensical stage performance. We should come to our original constitutional position, known as Krishna consciousness. At the present moment, the real master is material nature. Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mamamaya Dharatya. 7:14, Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Under the spell of material nature, we are becoming servants and masters. But if we agree to be controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His eternal servants, this temporary condition ceases to exist. Om Jnanativedandasya Gananchana Shalakaya Chakshulanmaditam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Kridivachalam Pangam Langa Tegirim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurundinitaranam Pancha Kalpadrubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I read the translation again. My dear king, if you still think that you are the king and that I am your servant, you should order me, and I should follow your order. I can then say that this differentiation is temporary, and it expands only from usage or convention. I do not see any other cause. In that case, who is the master and who is the servant? Everyone is being forced by the laws of material nature. Therefore no one is master and no one is servant. Nonetheless, if you think that you are the master and that I am the servant, I shall accept this. Please order me. What can I do for you? So apparently, I know that Mohan Vilas, or old Mohan Vilas, and his wife Adarya, they're in Maui. So they tune in regularly, just so you know, because sometimes it's like anonymous. You know, there's 20, maybe 15, 20, 10 people, however many people are watching, but it's like kind of anonymous. But they watch regularly, and Bob in Arizona, he's tuning in regularly, and also I found out that this devotee, I mean, I'm sure many of the devotees know him, but Krishna Prabhu in Los Angeles, he also tunes in. He told me. So, I don't think so, especially my class, just all the classes. So if you're all, if all you there, welcome. Hare Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada in the Nectar of Instruction, he tells how there was a man and he worked very hard for his family. And that was a traditional thing, that specifically men would work very hard for their family, and women wouldn't. I mean, they would work, but not for money and this and that. But anyways, so he was working very hard for his family, and then he became old, and he left his body, and he went into another body, the soul transmigration. So then in that next life, he went to the same house of his children. And somehow or other, I don't know if he knew, I think there's some idea that he actually knew that, oh, these were my children before. Whether he knew or not, but he went to the next house, he went to the house of his children that he worked so hard for. And he was knocking on the door begging or whatever. And it said that the children, they beat him with shoes, tell him to get out of there. So he was a loving father of these children, and then just fast forward a little bit, and they're beating him with shoes, telling him to get lost. So in this particular verse and purport, Jad Bharat is bringing up this point that, okay, now you're the king, and you're the master, and I'm the servant, but it could switch. I could be the king, and you could be the servant, depending on situation. And Srila Prabhupada brings up in the purport how these ideas, he says, this ahamameti principle, right? I am this body, and in this body concept a relationship. He is my master, so he is my master, he's my servant. She is my wife, he's my son. So these are all based on these temporary situations. And Srila Prabhupada explains that we gather together like straws. So we're all floating in the ocean, and we gather together like straws, right? And then because the ocean's so intense and powerful, the straws come together for something, and then they separate. So that's our experience. Just like people somehow or other, right? They're born in a particular family, mother, father, brothers, sisters. So they all get together, right? They'll come together as a family, and then there for some time. And then and then they separate, right? Means that situation is no longer there. I mean, all of us here, maybe we're in the situation of having a mother and a father that we lived with, and brothers and sisters, and as a whole experience, right? But that experience is gone, and it's not coming back. And what to speak of transmigration of the soul, the next life, and it's completely gone. So, so this is the situation that Srila Prabhupada's mentioning here. And he quotes Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how people are floating, right, like straws on the waves of material nature. But if they come to this understanding that they're eternal servants of Krishna, they'll put an end to this floating condition. It means they won't be in the ocean of Bhava Sagar anymore, or the ocean of birth and death, ever-changing. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada's quoting the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3. So this is a very important verse. Of course, they're all important verses in the Bhagavad Gita, but this is a very famous verse, well-known verse. It's probably being quoted somewhere throughout the world right now, because there's devotees all over the world. Yeah, so we'll read it. But these verses are also meant to be memorized. It means the Sanskrit and also the English. And not just memorized, the Sanskrit and English, but repeated and shared with others for their benefit. And Srila Prabhupada, he really encouraged devotees to do that, to memorize. It's good, actually, because we have a lot of impressions in our mind, and a lot of them are maybe mundane impressions, right? So many things we've done in this life, or we thought in this life. Even thinking certain things leaves impressions. Not just doing things. Thinking things leave impressions. So all the things we've done, all the things we thought of, there's a lot of material impressions, generally speaking, with people. So, but to chant, right, the Bhagavad Gita shlokas, to try to memorize them, because the principle of memorization is to repeat it over and over and over again. That's how you memorize something. It saturates the mind with the transcendental sound of the shloka, and it leaves a spiritual impression. And that's what we want. We want spiritual impressions. That's the whole idea. We're engaging in Krishna consciousness, we're doing devotional service, we're creating spiritual impressions and getting rid of the material impressions, or samskars, right? And then instead of all these material impressions coming up, bubbling up, we have spiritual impressions, or samskars, coming up, which are good. Like going to Vrindavan, for example. It leaves a very wonderful impression on our minds. So memories. So yeah, to memorize is important, especially the well quoted or famously quoted verses from Srila Prabhupada that Prabhupada would use regularly in his communication of Krishna consciousness. So this is one of them. So it's worth memorizing. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajaguna Samudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapatma Vidyenam Ihavarinam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion, and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world." And then Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that we read today that due to the mode of passion we desire many things. That's meaning material things. And according to our desire or anxiety, and according to the order of the Supreme Lord, material nature gives us a certain type of body. So we're desirous of many material things due to the material mode of passion. So that's the cause. we're being influenced by the material mode of passion, therefore we're desiring things. But to understand that material things bring us suffering, we may understand that, right? Or we may not. But becoming more spiritually advanced, we will understand that to be desirous of material things and to try to experience material things just brings suffering. So if that's the case, we have to find out, okay, well, how do I not desire material things? Well, it's being stated here. The cause of desiring material things is being influenced by the mode of passion. So the idea is that we have to get out, we have to not be influenced by the mode of passion, right? Because if we're not influenced by the mode of passion, we won't desire material things. We won't be in this state of suffering. And aside from being in the state of suffering, because we're not just, it's not that we're like happiness addicts or something, that we're just trying to run away from all suffering. But it's not pleasing to Krishna for us to be in the mode of passion and for us to desire material things. It's just not our nature, so it doesn't make any sense. So therefore, the mode of goodness is stressed over and over and over again. Srila Prabhupada stressed it over and over and over again. To try to live in the mode of goodness while practicing Krishna consciousness, or adding the practices of Krishna consciousness. So we'll just read a little bit of this purport here from Bhagavad Gita. Because Srila Prabhupada explains the problem and he explains the solution. When a living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust. And lust is not just referring to sexual lust. It's just referring to all different forms of material desires. In association with the mode of passion, transformed into lust in association with the mode of passion. Or, in other words, the sense of love of God becomes transformed into lust as milk in contact with sour tamarind is transformed into yogurt. Then again, when lust is unsatisfied, it turns into wrath. Wrath is transformed into illusion, and illusion continues the material existence. So when our desires aren't satisfied, we become angry. If we analyze very closely, we'll see that whenever we're angry, it means our desires aren't satisfied. Like somebody's not treating us properly, according to our perception, then we become angry. Why? Because we're desiring them to treat us a certain way, and they're not, so we become angry. Our desires are being frustrated. Or if maybe we want peace and happiness, and we're not getting peace and happiness, right? We're desirous of that, but we're not getting it, so we become angry. Or somebody wants some, whatever, a man wants a particular woman, he doesn't get the woman, becomes angry. The desires are being frustrated. Which turns into illusion, which means we can be completely bewildered, and then that continues material existence. Therefore, lust is the greatest enemy of the living entity, and it is lust only which induces the pure living entity to remain entangled in the material world. Wrath is the manifestation of the mode of ignorance. These modes exhibit themselves as wrath and other corollaries. If, therefore, the mode of passion, the mode of passion, that's the problem. Instead of being degraded into the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion is elevated to the mode of goodness by the prescribed method of living and acting. So what Srila Prabhupada taught us, how to live, how to act. Then one can be saved from the degradation of wrath by spiritual attachment. One devotee, his name's Daiva Prabhu, he's a Prabhupada disciple. He's quite energetic. Anyways, I met him recently, and he said that, yeah, I met him in Honolulu. But he said that he had a dream of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada asked him, Srila Prabhupada asked him, so, do you have any question for me? And then the devotee, Daiva, said, yeah, well, how do I give up all material attachments? That was his question. And Srila Prabhupada said, well, you have to become attracted to Krishna's flute, the sound of his flute. That's what he said. They say the sound of the flute is the Hare Krishna mantra, right, in this world. But Daiva Prabhu was making the point how he loved that answer from Srila Prabhupada, because it wasn't like it was. Srila Prabhupada was saying you have to develop positive attachment to Krishna, to the aspects of Krishna consciousness. It's not just negative, like, oh, give up. But you have to develop positive attachment. We'd have to develop positive attachment, spiritual attachment. So that's what's being mentioned here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expanded himself into many for his ever-increasing spiritual bliss, and the living entities are part and parcels of this spiritual bliss. They also have partial independence, but by misuse of their independence, when the service attitude is transformed into the propensity for sense enjoyment, they come under the sway of lust. This material creation is created by the Lord to give facility to the conditioned souls to fulfill these lustful propensities. So that's what the creation's about. Okay, we want to fulfill them. Okay, here you go. But then, and when completely baffled by prolonged lustful activities, the living entities begin to inquire about their real position. So, trying to enjoy, suffering. All right, well, I have some questions here. Why am I suffering? They want answers. Then they inquire. This inquiry is the beginning of the Vedanta Sutras, wherein it is said, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, one should inquire into the Supreme. And the Supreme is defined in Srimad Bhagavatam, Janmad Yasa Yataha. The origin of everything is the Supreme Brahman. Therefore, the origin of lust is also in the Supreme. If, therefore, lust is transformed into love for the Supreme, or transformed into Krishna consciousness, or, in other words, desiring everything for Krishna, then both lust and wrath can be spiritualized. Hanuman, the great servitor of Lord Ram, exhibited his wrath by burning the golden city of Ravan. But by doing so, he became the greatest devotee of the Lord. Here also in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord induces Arjuna to engage his wrath upon his enemies for the satisfaction of the Lord. Therefore, lust and wrath, when they're employed in Krishna consciousness, become our friends instead of our enemies. So we have So the idea is that everybody has desires. Oh, I want to get this. I want to get that for myself, right? I want to do this for myself. But the idea is that we could become very not ambitious, but very enthusiastic to get things for Krishna's pleasure. Like that's what Srila Prabhupada, that's exactly what he did. He was very enthusiastic. We're going to get this temple, we're going to get that temple, we're going to print all these books, we're going to distribute all these books, we're going to organize this, we're going to organize that. So just desiring to offer everything to Krishna instead of desiring to offer everything to oneself. So, which is lust, So Srila Prabhupada is saying it could be employed, the idea of being desirous of so many things. So then Prabhupada's saying that the real master at this particular point is material nature, which means that we've accepted Maya, we accepted material nature as our master, and we become the servant. But he's saying that we need to get out of that spell and become servants of Krishna. So, and he quotes Bhagavad Gita 7:15, Daivi heshu gunamahima mamaya dharatya mama eve prapadyate mayama itam tarantite. The divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So Srila Prabhupada explains that sometimes guna is referred to as rope. Conditioned soul is tightly tied by the ropes of illusion. A man bound by the hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by those who are unbound. So I said, who's unbound? The spiritual master and Krishna. So they need that superior help. And in this particular age, how do we surrender to Krishna? Well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that by chanting of the holy names. It says, Nam Avatar, Krishna has appeared in the form of his name. That's the main association for this particular age. That's the process for this age. Hari Nam, chanting the holy names, becoming attached to chanting. And that's actually how we... but those who surrender to me can easily cross beyond it. That's actually how we surrender to Krishna. We surrender to him in the form of his name. And ye yata mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamiham, that as they surrender to me, Krishna says, I reward them accordingly. So as we approach the holy name of Krishna, the holy name of Krishna will reciprocate accordingly. Therefore, the holy name is sometimes referred to as Chintamani, which means that you could get anything. So therefore, we have to be careful what we're desiring while chanting, because sometimes that desire will be fulfilled. But if we're desiring... well, I don't know. I don't know if some American sage said that one time. So if we engage seriously in the chanting process, then all of these, everything becomes clear. Everything becomes clear. That's how we develop our spiritual vision, actually, through the chanting. Or else it's, how are we supposed to develop it? So, okay, does anybody have any?
Hare Krishna?
Yes, you could ask.
Yes, Prabhu, the quote from the purport, you just mentioned it, quote, at the present moment, the real master is material nature, end quote. So, Prabhu, if at the present moment, because we are living in material bodies, in the material world, we have to accept the material nature as master, what should we do in order to serve her because she is the master, in our best way?
Well, Srila Prabhupada is saying that material nature is our master, but he's saying that we shouldn't actually accept material nature as our master, because that's not our nature. Our nature is Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnara Nityadas. It's not Jivera Swarup Hoy Mayara Das, right? We're not servants of Maya, we're servants of Krishna. So, yeah, but it's quite a, you could say, distorted reflection, because we're actually meant to be servants of Srimati Radharani, whereas we're servants of material, or people are servants of material nature, right, in the form of Durga. But it says that there's Vaishnavas, and the technical definition of a Vaishnava means a servant of Vishnu. And then there's Karshnas, which means servant of Krishna. And then there is Gaudiyas. So we're actually, the technical term we know is Gaudiyas, right? Now, this is in the Vaibhava book for Bhakti Vikas Swami, but Gaudiyas means, the definition means servant of Srimati Radharani. Which is actually important because according to where how we've grown up, means in this world, our conditioning, where we were born, maybe what spiritual ideas we have or what religious ideas we were brought up in, they can still affect us. For example, maybe those who are brought up in Christian backgrounds, from a Christian background or Abrahamic religions, there's a strong tendency to focus a lot. Well, I mean, with the Catholics, they have Mother Mary, which is not obviously the same as Srimati Radharani, completely different. But they have Abrahamic religions have a tendency to focus on aspect of father, right? Father, right? Which is fine. But sometimes that can carry on into Krishna consciousness, and we may forget, well, there's also Mother, right? Srimati Radharani. Hare, right? Hare Krishna. Not just Krishna. There's also Hare Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada makes this point in the purport. In a purport, I think in the earlier cantos, he talks about how in Vrindavan, still to this day, the residents of Vrindavan, they chant, right, Jai Shri Radhe, which he's mentioning how they understand this. She's the soft counterpart of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So yeah, but we're not servants of Maya, we're servants of Krishna or Radha Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada also gave the example that we need to come under the protection of Srimati Radharani. Because in the material world, being unsurrendered to Krishna, Durga on her, lion? She has a lion, right? On her, tiger. On her tiger, she's, riding, and she has this, trident with 3 prongs, right? Prong. So, and she's jabbing people. And these three prongs are the material miseries: mind, body, natural disturbances from earthquakes and so on, and other living entities. So she's just jabbing people. So Prabhupada says, being in Maya is just you're just, oh, here, jab me. But being Krishna conscious, or being surrendered to Krishna, we're coming under the protection of Srimati Radharani, who's in charge actually. And she's like this, holding her, mudra, which means don't worry. You see on the altar, don't worry. It means surrender to Krishna, don't worry. So it's better to be under the shelter of Srimati Radharani. And Srila Prabhupada, speaking on this verse, Mahatmanas tamam parta daivam prakritamashita, those who are under the protection of the divine nature. So Srila Prabhupada mentions in the Nectar of Instruction, he's quoting that verse, and he says that's Srimati Radharani. So yeah, we don't need to serve Maya, but we just serve Krishna, Radha Krishna, Radha Giridhari.
That is your answer?
Yes.
Oh, Prabhu, again, spectacular answer to my question. Very, very, very scholarly. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
All right, thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes. Does anybody have any other? Comment? Question?
Prabhupada says in the purport, this idea of master and servant were like actors on a stage under someone else's direction. while we are uneven form, we should put an end to this nonsensical stage performance. So again, it comes up. It's like Shakespeare, right? We're all like on a stage, and it's a tale told by an idiot, signifying nothing. So we have a lot to learn from Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But the problem is he didn't know how to end it. He just said, "This is it."
Yeah. Yeah, there's sometimes in the movie industry of India, which is mostly Bollywood. I don't know why they named it that, Hollywood, Bollywood, but which mostly they're just producing. I mean, I don't know if they're producing anything good, but mostly just a bunch of nonsense. But anyways, sometimes I think they may have created in the past movies with Krishna. They've done that. And some of these movies with Krishna, just like they completely distort the pastime of Krishna. It's like somehow or other there's like a man and the woman in the pastime or in the movie. And then the whole idea is guess what? They're going to come together. I mean, that's all the movies, just same thing, So man and woman, they get together. So anyways, and then Krishna's like there in the movie, and he's playing like a supportive role to like help them get together. Like that's the purpose of Krishna being there. So in other words, they're the center, and then Krishna's just kind of like a, supportive role. So anyways, one devotee, Borijan Prabhu, he was saying how a lot of people, they think that, it's like a big stage, and then like they're the center, and then like other people are like supportive roles, to kind of, he was mentioning that. And he was saying that even in religious life, people, they have like Krishna or God, some conception, but God's just there to kind of like support their sense gratification. But yeah, we're not into that. Krishna's the center, and we're serving, to support, or not to support, but to, please Krishna. So yeah, it's an interesting concept, a stage, because in a stage, usually you have a costume, right? You have a costume, and you're acting like someone you're not, right? So this is what Prabhupada's bringing up, this stage idea. It's quite interesting.
Just one comment about Bollywood. I heard that there was recently, like this year or last year, they released a movie.
Like Radha Krishna or something?
No, it was Ravan Leela. It was called Ravan and Leela. And the main character, who's, I think he's playing Ravana, it's like modernized. It's like kind of like a modernized thing. It's like, hip kind of looking people, but they're, anyway. But the main character, the actor who plays the main character, who I think is Ravana, he's a worshipper of Lord Ramachandra, somehow or other. But anyway, the whole thing's super, super degraded.
Yeah,
I think they ended up changing the name of the movie though, because people just
they didn't like it.
Just like freaked out over it.
Yeah. There was this whole thing that they made. Some devotee sent me like a link, because a lot of people were upset in India. There was something they made with, I don't know, it was like Radha, Krishna, but it was just some couple and just like mundane couple. The whole thing was just mundane, but somehow or other it was like, Radha, Krishna or something, like a Mayavad weird thing. Anyways, so they were like doing all these petitions to, get it out. I'm not sure exactly what happened, if they got it off the, but, So, things could become very confused, right? Age of Kali. All right, there's tapas. Okay, Granthraj, Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh, you have something, Dimitri? Okay, quick. Sorry.
If people choose to worship Maya, And will there ever be a point where Maya will be kind of satisfied with you and make you a tool to bring suffering to other people? Like that.
What was that?
Maya will make you a tool, you know,
Yeah.
will be so pleased with you, to bring suffering to other people, you know. Will there ever be a point like this? When people reach that point?
Well, I mean, the thing is, when people are in the modes of material nature, specifically the lower modes, passion, ignorance especially, there's, you know, yeah, they are Maya's agents. They are, like, practically everybody, like, means the non-devotees, those who are against Krishna, yeah, they're Maya's agents. Means they're creating suffering for others and themselves, and yeah, it's just like it's actually kind of, it's quite a mess. Yeah, government leaders. Yeah, they're listening. In other countries, I mean, this country, again, it's really free. I mean, in other countries, you cannot say, you know, I mean, of course, nowadays it's kind of becoming, with these different platforms, YouTube and this and that. But it's becoming a little more like that. But in other countries especially, it's like extremely intense. You can't say anything. I mean, I spoke to this boy. I was at UCSD distributing books. I have done that before at UCSD. I was distributing books at UCSD, and we're at a table, and this boy came up, and we were talking, and he said he's from China, you know, because a lot of people are coming from there to go to UCSD it's a good school apparently for. So I was talking to him, and I was saying, oh yeah, I've been to China before, and this and that, and I was talking about his government and how it's not so free in terms of religion and this and that, and then he's like looking around, he's like, you know, he was like telling me, like, hey, like someone was listening to him. I mean, he was completely, you know, spooked, actually. I said, okay, sorry, you know, for bringing it up, you know. But yeah, in other countries but here it's not yet, yeah. So.
Another question. Are there real demons here, or just people deeply trapped in a modes?
Well, demons doesn't just mean like, you know, people with horns, you know, but it means like people who are against Krishna. So yeah, from that definition, there's plenty of demons.
Many years ago, probably, let's see, it's probably early 78, I was working with BTG. And Jaya Maharaj published an article in the BTG. He had written an article called "The Demons Amongst Us," and he was basing it completely on chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita. And he was saying, you know, he didn't name names, but he said that, you know, we know someone like this. Somebody, there's so many qualities there. You can just take a list and says, yeah. There's a lot of people like that who are just concerned with themselves, very greedy, you know, like that. Ishvaroham, I'm in control. I'm the perfect, powerful, and happy, you know, like that. So yeah, there's plenty of demons around.
Yeah.
One thing from translation of the. So the last line from the translation of this verse is, nevertheless, if you think that you are the master and that I am the servant, I shall accept this. Please order me what I can do for you. So Maharaj Jadbharat, he knew that I am not the servant of the king, but still he's saying that even still if you think that I am your servant, then please order me. So how to understand this? Though he was very elevated and he knew that he is servant of Krishna, but he kind of acting saying that I will do whatever you ask me.
Well, one thing is that a devotee is humble, so because in one sense, for him to chastise the king, I mean, generally the citizens, they don't chastise the king. Prabhupada actually says in the Bhagavatam, he says, there's some quote, oh, the king can do no wrong. So generally they don't do that. So, I mean, he's mentioning it, but he's saying, okay, I'm instructing you, this and that, but if you still think, if you want to identify as being the king, and I'm your servant, you instruct me. So he's kind of like, he's going on a very high transcendental platform, and then he's saying that, okay, but if you want to act like this, and we could continue, with this. So that's one thing, and there is value to that, because it's not that there are certain roles within society. There's certain persons with authority, and there's a reason for that. Because things have to go on, things have to be organized, and so that's kind of what's being brought up. Yeah, humbleness, and ultimately, yeah. All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.